This
Java provides them.
conference will now be recorded.
And the second thing I mentioned here is the exception handling. Some of the programming languages do support the exception handling, and Java supports the exception handling, and it's a really important technology, important element of the Java programming language, because when you develop an application and you deploy an application to production, many things might go wrong. So whenever something goes wrong, you wanted to handle it gracefully and you wanted to record that information into your logs. That's where this exception handling is really important. And in many of the interview questions, you might face what is exception handling and how you are going to use it. And in your daily day-to-day life as a Java developer, you feel the importance of exception handling. But people who are working in some other fields, they might be using Java, they might not be using exception handling because it is too much for them. Collections and framework is really important element of Java programming language. There are different types of collections. In the people who are coming from computer science background, they might have learned something called data structures. So data structures are all converted into collections, and those collections framework is provided in Java from 1999 or 2000 when Java 1.2 came into picture. At that time, they have introduced a lot of different types of data structures, the list, linked list, and all those things introduced in Java 1.2. So that is really important. And day-to-day life, people who are Java developers, they will use the collections framework. Sockets, generic streams, and file handling. There are different things which I have put together into one bullet point here. So sockets is very old technology. It is there from long time. People used to use sockets in those days because connecting to other systems was possible using sockets. But these days, people are not going to use the sockets because there are so many other wrappers around sockets written by commercial vendors and also the third-party open source libraries. Generics is new thing, not new, not 2020 technology, but it's relatively newer compared to the older Java. And streams is definitely a new technology in Java. Recently, they introduced it in 1.8 onwards. File handling. File handling is also very old technology and really useful technology in Java. One of the feature. Threads, applets, event handling. These are all primary in technologies within Java. Uh, AWT and Swing. So AWT and Swing is going to allow people to develop installable front end, also called as thick client. Most of the people think why I'm talking about AWS and Swing, because these days most of the companies are not really using. That is true. But if you are a master of those two technologies, even today, you have a very good resume and companies are hiring, and the technology still has a demand. So people who already there in AWT or Swing, they can still stay there and they can still earn money out of those two technologies. But people who are trying to build their career, they might not be really willing to go there because there are very few jobs, but there are jobs. The second thing is the HTTP protocol. These are the basic things every Java developer has to learn. The people who are in the networking field, they definitely know what is HTTP protocol, what is TCP/IP, what is RM, what is sockets and networking. So RMI is remote method invocation. It is native technology for Java. Java supports that. But the other technologies which I listed here are primarily for networking folks. But Java as a programming language supports these things, and there are different libraries which are created by the creators of Java and also other third-party vendors. Connecting to database is a really important element for any programming language that will be accomplished using the JDBC. And people who are Java developers, they have to learn little bit of database fundamentals. What is a database, how it works, how you will connect to database, what are the queries. So you can choose whatever the database you want if you are new to Java, and you need to know some basics of database. And in interviews also, you might face some questions regarding the database connectivity and basics of the database, fundamentals of the database, the what we call the transactions, how you maintain the transactions, how you make sure the transaction is happening, how to troubleshoot database connections. Those kind of questions people face in interviews if they are going as a Java developer. These days, Java is also used for testing. So people who are testers, they also have to learn the database, and they might have to connect to database from their test scripts written in Java. And the other things which I listed here, I have given some space there. There's a reason behind, because till this point I was talking about the technologies which are core Java technology. From here onwards, some of them may be part of core Java, but some of them are not. For example, XML, XSD, this is not a Java technology, but Java supports that. So extensive markup language, and this to create the XML, you will create the definition, XML styles definition. So these technologies are all created by third-party vendors. The Xersys, Jackson, they are third-party open source technologies which you will use to parse the XML. Otherwise, you want to do some kind of XML processing. The next point I'm trying to make here about the web application and the client server. So in olden days, people who are really like 15-20 years of experience, they know people used to have there were technologies called Oracle Forms. So Oracle Forms was really popular technology in those days, because you will create a front end, and that front end will be installed in some application, some desktop, and it is going to interact with the back end using the forms. So front end has a form where you enter some information and it goes to the database. So in those days, there used to be systems called client server applications. So there will be a client installed in a desktop, and backend there used to be a database. But these days, the web applications have replaced that kind of technology, and even all the big commercial companies, banks, everyone is using the web-based applications. So you will have the application developed as a web application, which can be opened in any computer. You don't have to install any software. That is the beauty of web application. So you have a web application sitting in your browser, which connects to a middleware in the server where your application is deployed. Then it talks to a database. So it's a three-tier application process. Sometimes it may be more than three-tier, but it's a web application. JSP and servlet was a newer technology introduced around 99 or 2000. At that time, the primary question was, if you know JSP, you get the job. These days, the JSPs are not really popular because so many JavaScript libraries are there in the market, but it is still a technology. Some of the companies still using them, and somewhere you might use it. Session management is really important if you are using JSP and servlet kind of a model, but if you are using the what we call the JavaScript third-party libraries, these days they have created, for example, Angular and other things. You don't use the Java session management, but definitely you have to still maintain the sessions. You need to know what is session management and how it works. And in some interviews, you might face those questions. And if you realize, in every bullet point, I'm talking about the jobs, I'm talking about the interview questions. So if you are interested, you can just take notes. And if you have any questions, just note down. We'll come back and talk about this. The next thing, I'm talking about the open source technologies. So Spring. The people who are trying to build their career today, they are not into Java right now, and they want to become a Java developer. You must learn Spring. No second opinion on that. As per my experience, as per my knowledge, what I have seen in industry, almost every newer application is being built using Spring. So within Spring, there are so many other technologies which are provided by Spring creators. So there is a Spring Boot, Spring MVC, Spring Validation, Spring JDBC, integration, batch, dependency injection, and many other technologies like Spring Cloud. So all these technologies are developed by Spring creators. It's a open source technology, and it's created by a non-profit organization maintained by so many developers, and it is available for free of cost. You can just download and you can play at your home, and you can use whatever the IDE you want. You can use Eclipse or any other your favorite IDE, and you can build applications. Many of the times people talk to me and they say, I'm trying to look for a job, what I have to learn, this is the one which you have to learn. So anyone is looking for a job as a Java developer, they must learn Spring. And whatever the different technologies you learn in Spring, that is good. And Spring Boot is definitely a popular these days. And Spring Boot is a small application which runs by itself. You don't have to install any application server. It comes with its own Tomcat, and you can create a small application, and those small applications are called as microservice, and it can be deployed by itself, and you can interact one microservice with other microservice. So that's the beauty of Spring Boot. And Spring MVC is the one which creates a UI. Otherwise, you can also create REST-based web services. Spring MVC. Spring validations are used for validating the information which is coming from your front end. Otherwise, it is coming from a JavaScript technology like Angular or whatever, and you have to make the validations. Otherwise, you have multiple vendors, and your vendors are making a call to you, not the front end, and you have to do the validations before you accept that information coming from your vendor or front end or whatever. So Spring validations is going to support that. Java library these days have its own validation framework, and you have an option to choose whatever validation framework you want to use. Spring also supports the JDBC. So in olden days, we used to write our own queries, we used to write our own transactions and everything. The Spring JDBC is kind of a wrapper on that. So that's what it is. Spring integration is going to give you an option to uh, create different components and wire them together. If you imagine, if there is a big building, like 20 floors of a building, and there are so many different offices in it, all those offices are having a pipeline connected, like a sewer pipeline or drinking water pipeline. Otherwise, there is a what you call the electrical wiring. So all those are connected using this integration. If Java is a building, and in that building there is a connector called like pipelines, bends, dividers, those things you will see in your Spring integration. Spring Batch is a popular technology to process the batch processing. For example, you have a file coming from your vendor, and you have to process that file. You have to validate that file row by row, line by line, record by record. That can be done, that can be achieved using a batch. And there is a Spring dependency injection, and all these things are nothing new. They are all available on internet. There are so many tutorials available online, and you can go to Udemy, you can go to YouTube. There are so many uh, providers, and each of these technologies will have a lot of information available. But primary important thing which I'm trying to emphasize here is Spring is really important technology for a Java developer. If you are a Java developer, without Spring, you are not going to survive. If you are into Java development already, you don't know Spring, learn Spring right now. The other technology which were there were struts and tiles. These days, not a lot of companies are using, but if companies are using, you might have to brush those skills, and you can use it. But it's not an emerging technology. It's not a new technology. Apache Commons. Apache is a open source library. It has so many different types of third-party helper classes available. You can go to Apache and download whatever you want, and you can play with it. They are not really hard to understand. It's really easy. So you can download them, and most of the companies, most of the projects where we work, wherever we see, they definitely use Apache libraries. It can be commons or string utils or validations or many different libraries available, and all those are really helpful. You don't have to write the code, you just download the library and start using it. So Apache Commons is one of the important third-party library. Then we have Hibernate, really important technology. So olden days we used to write again Java with all the JDBC statements and all those things. These days the Hibernate came into picture. It's a ORM technology, relational management. So all your database tables will be converted into Java objects, and those Java objects you are going to interact with. And Hibernate provides different types of libraries like criteria. For example, you want to have a where condition, you can use criteria. If you are trying to write a simple plain old Java Oracle query or SQL query, then you can use the query. And you can do caching. That is the important element of Hibernate. And interviews also, you will face a lot of questions around caching. Transactions also going to be maintained by Hibernate if you are using Hibernate as a technology in your application. And you have to understand what are the different transaction parameters, transaction settings, which are available in Hibernate, and how you are going to use them. And definitely, if you are giving an interview as a Java developer, you might face some of the questions around Hibernate transactions. JPA is a technology similar to Hibernate, provided by Java itself. Some of the companies use Hibernate and JPA both. Some of the companies use JPA, no Hibernate. So it's up to company. It's one of the ORM technologies again. MyBatis is a oldest technology. I have seen that in 2003 also, maybe even before 2003 it used to be there. But in like last 3-4 years also, I have seen some companies using this iBatis and MyBatis. You can go online and you can download those libraries and you can create your small application. Primarily, it's again ORM technology, object relational mapping. You will create all your queries in the form of an XML, and you will map them to Java objects, and you fetch the data, you persist the data, you read the data. And the beauty of the MyBatis and iBatis, why people are using, while companies are still using today, it is faster to retrieve the information. So if you are just reading the information from the database, you can simply go and use this MyBatis or iBatis, and it's faster compared to Hibernate and compared to Spring JDBC. There may be other issues, but overall, that is my observation. Wherever I used it, companies are still using. So if your company is using it, it's not really hard for you to learn. It may take few hours for you to sit there and just play with it. TopLink was one of the ORM technology. It was there for a long time. Uh, I'm not sure how many companies are using, but one of the key feature of the TopLink was caching. So these days Hibernate is providing caching, so companies are not really going to TopLink as a technology, and it's a proprietary technology from Oracle. Lombok is the latest technology, latest edition, which I have seen recently in my company. I'm not sure how long people are using it, but it's really useful technology. It's not a big technology. It's a small library which you download, and you can, if you're using Maven, just add as a uh, dependency. And the beauty of Lombok is, uh, in olden days we used to write getters and setters. If you have a IDE like Eclipse or my Eclipse or traditional application developer or any popular IDE, you can just say right click and generate getters and setters. But even if you generate the getters and setters, the class becomes too lengthy because you have all the getters and setters in your class. And if you have added a new variable, you have to generate the getters and setters for that new variable which you have created in your Pojo. And if there is any change to variable name, you have to delete the old getters and setters and create new getters and setters. It's all eliminated using Lombok. If you use the Lombok as a technology in your application, you don't have to write getters and setters. That's it. You just say Lombok, take care of getters and setters at runtime. So when you are running the application, it is going to create your getters and setters and make available. So it's really uh, interesting concept. Someone created it, and it's really useful. So if you have not used it, just use it. You will really like it. Backend tools. So here I'm talking about J2E containers. What are the J2E containers? So Apache, Tomcat, JBoss, WebSphere, WebLogic. The people who are already into Java programming, they might know any of these names, one of these names at least. So these are all the application servers created by some non-profit organizations or third-party companies. So most of you might know. Okay, so I was just reading some of the questions here. Java is fully object-oriented technology. Okay, okay, perfect. So if I go back to what I'm talking about, the J2E containers, Apache Tomcat is open source J2E container, which will give you most of the features which you are looking for, and it's really popular because it's lightweight. You don't have to invest a lot of time to install or uninstall, and it has simplest settings. And JBoss is little higher version of Apache Tomcat, and it provides more features. And WebSphere and WebLogic are compared to parallel to JBoss, but they were commercial technologies. WebSphere is created by IBM. WebLogic is created by a company called BEA Systems. Now it is bought by Oracle. JBoss is open source system, but people who need support, they can get the support from Red Hat. Red Hat is providing the support for the JBoss. So these application servers, what are they and what kind of uh, features they provide? So they do uh, provide these features of thread management, transaction management, connections management, memory management, and you can do the JMS, you can send emails. There are so many different features these containers will provide. But in absence of these containers, a developer or a company has to write all these things which are readily provided by these containers. So if you are using the containers, it's going to maintain sessions, it's going to maintain transactions, so many different things these containers will do. One other important point I'm trying to emphasize here on this slide is people who are new to Java technology, they are hearing about the Java technology for first time today, they can think about a career around a server administrator. So you can become a WebSphere administrator, you can become a WebLogic administrator, you can master that particular technology, and you can join as a job. There are a lot of people who are earning their bread and butter using these servers. So if you are not really interested to become a Java developer, you can become a server administrator. So any of these servers you can learn, and you can master about that server, and you can install, you can configure, you can support the company as a server administrator. That is one other career option as around the Java technology. You are not a Java developer, you know a little bit of Java, but you will be master of any of these servers. So that is another way of describing career around Java technology. I'm going back to non-Java technologies. Okay, these technology which I listed here, nothing to do with Java, right? But if you work in a company, the company is going to use these things. If you already know any of these things, it is really easy for you to convince the your interviewer, your employer, you have to hire me because I know these things, right? So if you are looking for a job and you never worked in any of the companies, you are sitting at home, you are thinking, oh, what I have to learn, you can explore these things. So what is Scrum, what is Kanban, and what kind of tools they use in Scrum and Kanban? So the tools are version 1 Rally, HP Agile Manager, and ServiceNow, Jira. These are the different. So first three bullets are related. If you go to any of the companies these days, they'll say, did you work in Scrum environment, Kanban environment, or this kind of tools? Did you use any tools? So in my personal experience, I have used this all tools whatever I listed here. There may be many other tools which companies might be using, and if the companies don't have any tools, they might be still using sticky notes on a wall. So that is a standard practice if you don't have any tools available and if you are in the process of buying the tools. So if you know any of these tools, you can say, I know these tools. And if you have a resume, for example, on April 18, you have a resume which don't have any version 1, but you read a little bit about version 1, you do some kind of online research, and next day morning, April 19, you can say, my resume, the difference between yesterday and today is I have version 1 now. So generally what happens is people go online and try to make updates to their resume to make it more polished and more visible. So instead of going there and tweaking something, you just have to go online, add one more technology to your resume. And these technologies don't take hours and hours for you to learn, and you are not going to be a primary expert in these technologies. You will be one of the users, but on your resume, if you have these technologies and companies are using, they will uh, they are willing to listen to you. Oh, you know this technology also because we are using it, so I don't have to teach you when you join in my company. So that is the advantage of you, because these days the market is really competitive and companies are looking for people who know something, some technology which the company is already using it. So if any of these technologies companies are using and you are sitting at home looking for a job, doing nothing, just go and research of any of these tools, and you don't have to become a master. There are some people who are masters of these technologies, like ServiceNow developer, ServiceNow administrator, Jira administrator, Agile manager administrator, Rally administrator. So if you're not interested in Java, you can become administrator of these tools, and you can master those tools, and you can earn your bread and butter using those technologies also. But here I'm talking about the perspective of a Java developer. So Java developer, if they know a little bit about these technologies, how to use those tools, that is enough for you. The other thing I'm talking about, this fourth bullet point, is about CI. CI/CD, these days companies are talking about continuous integration, continuous delivery. And in CI/CD, everything starts with code, where your code is, what is your code repository is. So for example, you have money, you will deposit that money in bank, and you will deposit yesterday and you will withdraw today. You will have transactions in your bank, how much money you deposited on what day, from where that money came, someone transferred you transferred to someone. All those transaction history, that history will be maintained in code repository. In terms of Java as a technology or any programming language as a technology, when you are working as a Java developer, those who are new, they have to understand how the real-time systems are working in companies. So there are multiple developers working on same application, and everyone is getting the code from the repository. Repository is like a bank. So when you check out the code from the repository, it's like withdrawing the money from the bank. You're not really withdrawing, but you are taking a copy of it, like a snapshot. And you make some changes and you commit the code changes in the repository. So it's like a transaction in a bank. So if you want to go back and see who made what change on what day, all that history trail will be maintained by a system called uh, this configuration management system, CM. And these systems are, I have given few examples which I use in my companies: CVS, SVN, PVCS, ClearCase, and Git. The most popular these days is Git. Companies might be still using the SVN, CVS, and other technologies, but most of the companies are right now using this Git. So if you are sitting at home and looking for a job as a Java developer, try to explore what is Git and how it works. And you can go online and you can have an online repository for yourself, and you can write the code, check in the code, check out the code, and you can give access to your code to someone else. So all those things you can do. That is as a Java developer. But if you are interested, you can build your career as a Git administrator or SVN administrator, CVS administrator. So that is a different stream of job you can build around this technology which I am listed here. Uh, the other technologies again under CI/CD are Bamboo, Puppet, Jenkins, Chef, Maven, and Gradle. So These last three bullets points are all about CI/CD. These days, you might have seen people are talking about continuous integration and continuous delivery. They are also calling DevOps. So earlier people used to have a separate team called Ops team, and developers had their own team. And integrating between these two teams was a big headache for uh, management. So they have created a new department called DevOps. So the DevOps is nothing but you have Java developers who know the how CI/CD works, and you have operations team which is going to deploy applications to production environment, and you have given access to lower environments in most of the companies. For example, in dev environment, you are going to deploy. So to deploy those applications, you have different technologies available now. So each company is using different technology. I have listed some of the technology which I use it here. So Bamboo, Puppet, Jenkins, Chef. So these are all the different technologies. So if company is using Jenkins, they are not going to use Bamboo. Bamboo is used in some companies, they don't use Jenkins. So these two are parallel to each other. And Puppet is a configuration tool again. So if you are working in a company and if you know these technologies, you will be an asset to the company. Again, you can build a career around these things. You can become a Bamboo administrator or Jenkins administrator. Otherwise, you can learn this technology in great depth, and you can go to the company and say, I'm a Java developer, but I can help setting up Jenkins. I can help setting up Bamboo. I can maintain Bamboo if it is already set up. So that will be a plus in your resume. Maven, Ant, and Gradle, these are the popular build tools. These days, Ant is not used, but if there are old applications still available in the market, they might be continue still using Ant, but most of the companies have moved to Gradle or Maven. These technologies are going to create your deployable archive. It may be WAR or EAR or whatever. So you are going to use these technologies to do the build uh, as a build tool. So if you are new to Java, you are trying to build a career around Java, learn this technology. Is really important and it's a necessary requirement. If you don't know these technologies, it's really hard for you to continue in your job. So try to learn this technology if you don't know, but if you already know, that is good. The other things are like Python, shell scripts, and Groovy scripts. These are the scripting technology which I was talking about in the beginning. So most of the companies are using these technologies as necessary, as required. Sometimes you have to deal with some jobs in Unix environment. You will write a shell script that is easy compared to writing a lengthy Java code. Like for example, writing 100 lines of Java code to sending an email versus writing one line of code in shell script. That's what my experience. I did that. And Groovy is another different scripting language people use along with Jenkins. So if you have Jenkins, you write Groovy scripts in the back, which is going to do a lot of work in the back. So that is another scripting technology. Python is also scripting technology. If you learn, you can become a Python developer. Otherwise, if you are a Java developer and you know Python, it will be helpful in some of the companies where they're using it. So if you are in between jobs, otherwise if you are looking for a Java developer job, sitting at home, learn Python. uh, Database. So if you are a Java developer, as I was telling, you need to have some kind of basic knowledge about the database. Without that, you are not going to get a job. You are not going to survive in your job. So people who are looking for a career as a Java developer, they must learn some database. You don't have to learn all the databases available in the market, and you don't have to become an expert in the database, but you need to know what is database fundamentals. For example, ACID properties, atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. So all the relational databases support these ACID properties. Other database might support all of them or some of them, but they are really primary fundamentals of the database. And if you are a Java developer or if you are a database developer, database administrator, you might face some of the questions around this uh, acid properties. So be prepared when you go for an interview. These kind of questions you will face in interviews regarding the database. You cannot say, oh, I'm Java developer and I cannot answer the fundamentals of the database. You have to know, because you are going to deal with the data in your applications. SQL, PL/SQL functions, procedures, triggers, these are all the different components of the database programming. You don't have to be an expert in these things, but these days companies are expecting from a Java developer some of the things they are asking you to write, for example, store procedure or function. Earlier in olden days, we used to have a separate database programmer as a profile, as a job, and they used to create these components for us. We used to use them in Java, but these days the expectation of the companies have changed. If you are a Java developer, the companies are expecting you to write the queries, complex queries and functions, procedures, and all those things. So be prepared. If you are trying to build your career as a Java developer going forward, you have to learn these things: how to write a function, how to write a procedure, views. Coming back to different types of databases which are available in the market, the Oracle, MySQL, Postgre, Vertica, Mainframe, these are the different databases which I use it in my company. There may be many other databases. They are all, whatever I listed here, they are all relational databases. The next bullet point is NoSQL, Hadoop, Mongo, Cassandra. There may be many other. So going forward in companies, people are using these NoSQL databases. Sometimes they are going to this big data and other things. So if you are looking for a career as a Java developer, you need to know something about this NoSQL databases also. Relational databases too, because some companies are still using the relational databases. Some companies are using NoSQL databases. So try to learn something about the databases fundamentals, and in your interviews, you will face the questions about these databases too. You can start with MySQL if you don't have anything. You can start with Mongo if you don't have anything. You can install these things. They are freely available. You can download and you can play with it. Uh, some of the complex questions you can find out online, and you can answer those questions in your interviews, but you have to know basics of the database as a Java developer. Transactions and distributed transactions. So there are two different types of transactions in OLTP, online transaction processing, especially for relational databases. So you need to know how those things will work and how you are going to configure if you are using an application server and different types of drivers you are going to use. So you should be able to answer those questions in interviews. Connection pools and data sources. Again, in all these application servers which I was talking about, the JBoss and other things, you need to know how these things will be configured and how you are going to use in your application, in your configuration files, XML files. So you need to know as a Java developer how these things are configured in your property files, XML files, and if you go to the front end of these application servers, for example, WebSphere front end configuration management console. Other tools, uh, sometimes what happens is you know the database, but company is using a different tool. For example, SQL Developer for Oracle, SQL Browser for this MySQL, Rocket Shuttle for IBM mainframe. Otherwise, Toad can connect to any database. So if you know these tools before you join the company, you are not going to struggle, right? Yeah, I can stop for any questions. Yes. Le- le- I thought we are going to take the questions later, maybe tomorrow or next week, because I have a lot of things to cover. Okay, so I was talking about other tools, and all the attendees, please note down whatever the questions you have. Definitely, we'll come back. We'll discuss. Okay. Okay. So these are the tools you can download and you can learn, and you can make your resume heavier. In your resume, if you say, I know these extra tools, I did not use them in any of my professional environment because I did not get a chance to use them, but I know I learned them. I'm familiar with those tools. So if the company is using, they are going to prefer you over other candidates, because these days you have a lot of competition, right? Some other technologies, let's continue with UI and scripting. So these days, if you go to any online web portal, job portal, you will see a interesting title called full stack developer. What is full stack developer? So it's really interesting keyword they have come up with. They are saying you are a Java developer. I know you have a Java language experience. We definitely need that. But I'm asking you to develop some UI, and that UI won't be developed in plain old HTML. That UI won't be developed using any of the Java technologies, but there are some other technologies which companies are using these days. So you might use a JavaScript, or you might do Ajax calls from your front end. You might do Angular, Bootstrap, Vue, CSS, React. There are so many different technologies. Those technologies might not be as big as Java, but they are significantly bigger. You cannot learn these technologies in 1 hour or 5 minutes. You have to sit few days, you have to learn, you have to practice. So once you become expert in these technologies, you can claim yourself as a full stack developer. Compared to a regular old fashioned Java developer, if you claim yourself as a full stack Java developer, there are more job opportunities. So if you are not into any of these technologies or some of these technologies, sitting at home looking for a job, try to learn any of these technologies which are useful to secure a job. Your resume becomes a first priority compared to other resume, because these days there is a lot of competition. So you should learn something more than others. So if you want to become a full stack developer, if you want to apply for a job which is called as full stack developer, try to learn any of these scripting tools, and most of them are important. And at the end of the session, maybe tomorrow, I'm going to talk about emerging technologies, and these were the emerging technologies 4 years ago. 4 or 6 years ago, we were looking for what are the emerging technologies. These were the emerging technologies, and today most of the companies are using these technologies, developing their applications using these technologies, and they are the hot technologies. If you list some of these technologies in your resume, you can easily get the job, because having a knowledge of Java won't be sufficient going forward. Apart from Java, if you are claiming to be a Java developer, you should know something more than Java, and that something more is one of these, like Angular or Vue or something. Other tools which you might be using in the companies is Putty, FileZilla, or WinSCP, because most of the companies deploy their applications on a Unix box, and you are going to be working from a Mac or Windows machine, and you have to connect to those environments and check the logs. Even if you are using Amazon AWS as your backend, you will be able to connect using these tools to check the server logs. Otherwise, you can edit the shell scripts or do some kind of troubleshooting on the servers. So you need to know these tools. You don't have to be very expert on those tools, but you need to know how to use those tools. Similarly, you need to know Unix commands, because as I said, any of the companies, most of the companies, they all use the backend as Unix or Linux. So you have to know some of the commands. You don't have to be an expert, but you need to know as a Java developer. And some of the companies, they might be giving you Apple Mac. So Apple Mac works differently than Windows. You need to know a little bit, but there are very rare few companies which will give you Apple Mac. Cron job schedulers and control them. So in many of the applications, there is a requirement for application developers to schedule the job. So every Monday morning, this has to run. Every day morning, this has to run. Every day night, this job has to run. So all those jobs you are going to schedule using the cron jobs or control them or different technologies. So if you know how to schedule the jobs, that is good. You don't have to become an expert. It won't take like weeks or months to learn this. But if you know, that is good. If you can write in your resume, I know this also. If a company is looking for such a technology, it is really for easy for you to win the job compared to others. JVM. JVM is an important component of Java technology. All the applications, whatever you are deploying, they will be running on a JVM. And many of the times things go wrong and our application is not going to run. So if you know something about the JVM fundamentals, how it works, it will be a plus for you in a job. And if in any of the interviews, if you can talk about the JVM, they will be happy, because in every company not everyone knows about the fundamentals of the JVM, how it works. And in some places the troubleshooting is required. Not everyone will do, not all the Java developers will do the troubleshooting, but if you know the JVM's fundamentals and how it works and how to analyze the memory inside the JVM, you will be the star of the company. So if you want to earn those extra points, learn about the JVM fundamentals and do some research about memory analyzer tools available online. Uh, Not all of them are free. Some of them are free. You can play with something and you can understand how JVM works, what are the processes inside JVM goes, how the memory will be managed inside the JVM, how threads are managed inside the JVM, what is the memory leak means, what is the thread dump is. So these things you can learn and you can have an edge over other developers in the company and in the job market. So that's important. Some other technologies I'm continuing with uh, code static analysis, cyber hardening of the code. So these days what is happening is every company is talking about the security. So you write some code and it goes to production, and all of a sudden some hacker will be able to hack your code, and it becomes a big issue for the company, especially banks. So these days companies are saying you have to use some tool to analyze your code to make sure you are not leaving some security loopholes in your code. So there are tools available in the market. For example, this HP45 is one of the tool. Checkstyle is one of the tool. Findbug. So these tools you can use. One thing these tools are going to provide is they are going to tell you whether your code is following the best practices of the industry or not. Second thing, whether you have any security loopholes in your code. So I worked in a company where my entire project was about using these tools, find out what are the loopholes, fix those loopholes. That's it. That's the only thing we were doing in whole time, every day for months and months. So if you are joining in a company and they are trying to use these tools, if you know any of these tools, that will be better. If you know how those tools work, what are the idea behind those tools, that is really important. And if you are in between jobs or looking for a job, try to explore these tools and you can go and say, yeah, I know these tools, I know how those tools will work. And if you are really asking me to work on that, I'm willing to work on that. So that's good. There are other, as in the beginning itself, I told there are some organization specific best practices which you have to follow, uh, like null checks and brackets and formatting. And if you are using these, any of the tools which I mentioned before, those tools can catch these things. You don't have to really worry about them. But if you are not really using those tools, you have to do these checks. And in companies, there is a term called code review. So if one developer is writing the query, the code, the other developers are going to review and give you the review comments. If you become a reviewer, you need to know what are all the things you have to look, how the transactions are being maintained, whether the null checks are done or not, and all the business requirements are met or not. So those are the things people are going to review when they are doing the review. So if you are reviewing the code, otherwise you are expecting a code reviewer to give you no comments, you have to make sure you are following the best practices. Uh, Other important element in last 5 or 8 years is the web services. So there are two different types of web services popularly used these days in Java: SOAP and REST. SOAP web services and REST web services. SOAP web services are still used in the industry right now, but all the new applications, whatever are being developed, most of the companies are moving away from REST, this SOAP web services. They are going to REST web services. And if you are trying to look for a job, otherwise you have not worked on web services, you should learn about web services. And mostly companies are using the REST web services, and you have to know what is REST web services, what are the best practices in REST web services, how you are going to define the URLs, what are the best practices of using defining the URLs, how you are going to return the list versus single object. So and different HTTP methods which you support in REST web services, like HTTP post, get, delete, put, which method you have to use at what time. These are the things you have to learn as a Java developer. And in companies, in design discussions, people are going to talk about it. If you know already, you will be able to participate those discussions. Otherwise, you will be just sitting there knowing nothing. And to test those web services, people are using SOAP UI or Postman. These are the different tools which are readily available, freely available online. You can download and you can play with them. If you have developed a web service, how you can test using these tools, you can learn at home. And these services, these two tools which I have mentioned here, definitely useful and important for the testers. These days, Java is being used for developing the automation test scripts. So number one, the testers have to learn the core Java. Number two, the testers are going to use these two tools which I mentioned here. There may be many other tools, but these are the two popular tools companies are using. And if you are building a career as an automation tester, you might use them. If you are a Java developer, definitely you are going to test your web services using these two tools, SOAP UI and Postman. The other thing which I am talking to here is ESB, Enterprise Service Bus. So in the beginning, I was telling we are using the Spring Boot and we are developing the microservices. So the concept of microservice was you will develop a small service and it is going to do specific functionality. And for other functionality, you are going to develop another web service. For example, if it's a bank, you are developing a small microservice to update the account. You will create another microservice to update the credit card information. And this account and credit card are two different services, and to integrate between these two services, you are going to make a web service call, and you will be creating too many microservices. When you keep developing microservices, you will have hundreds of microservices in your company, and you have a partner, your partner also have hundreds of microservices. All these microservices have to interact, and there won't be any accountability. So you want to have some kind of accountability between these two microservices, the microservices within your company and the microservices across the companies. That's where this ESB comes into picture, Enterprise Service Bus. Enterprise Service Bus is a concept. It's not a technology. Like web service is a concept and SOAP and REST is a technology. And Enterprise Service Bus is a concept, and within that concept there are some technologies commercially available and freely available. Data Power is one technology created by IBM. Mule is open source technology, and Amazon is providing Amazon AWS Gateway. There may be many others, but I have seen these three in my personal experience in the companies. So there is important point here is, if you are not really willing to become a Java developer, if you are already Java developer and you don't want to continue, you can become an expert of Data Power. You can become an expert of Amazon Gateway. You can become an expert of Mule. Otherwise, you can work as a 50% Mule developer, 50% Java developer. So that is another career path you can choose if you are new or you are trying to change your career. And these technologies which I'm talking about, these technologies are going to maintain the web services. So one company is talking to another company using a web service, those all calls can go through this gateway. If you see, the gateway is like a watchman. You have a big building and watchman is sitting outside the building, and everyone is saying hi to watchman, and watchman is writing the name, and watchman is checking your badge. So this is kind of a watchman. So every microservice call, every web service call going from the company, coming into the company, they're all recorded, they are all audited at ESB level. You can do some kind of validations at ESB level. You can check the security certificate at ESB level. There are so many things these ESBs can do. Sometimes there are two different web services. Those two web services can be merged into a one web service and presented as a third web service, which will be given to your partner. That is also can be done using web service, this ESB. So ESB has a lot of features. These days companies are heavily using ESBs. Some of your companies might be already using it. So if you know some basics of this ESB as a Java developer, that is good. But other option is you can build your career around ESB. Queues. So the people who are working as a WebSphere administrator or WebLogic administrator, they must know about these queues, how the queues work. But if you are a Java developer, you should know about these queues, how to develop queues and how to interact with queues, and what happens if the queue is overflowing. You can configure some kind of notifications if the queue is overflowing, there are too many messages in the queue. All those things you can do, and they are really important technology, and most of the companies are using it. So if you are interested to learn, you can learn any of these queues also, like IBM MQ, RabbitMQ, Kafka, or different other technologies. It is not really a requirement. You don't have to learn it, but if you learn, that is good. These days companies are talking about the test driven development. They are saying you can either use JUnit or Mockito or JMock for code coverage. You can use the H2DB for running your JUnit scripts. uh, you can use Selenium and Cucumber. So these days what is happening is some of the companies, not all, some of the companies are trying to eliminate the requirement of a tester. So company will not have any testers. You as a Java developer, you will write the Java code, and you will write the JUnit, and you will write the Selenium scripts and Cucumber scripts. So you will do everything as a Java developer. Some of the companies are following that kind of a model. So if you are looking for a automation tester job, then you have to learn Java, core Java, and you have to learn this Selenium and Cucumber. But if you are already a Java developer and you wanted to survive in the market of this competitive era, you might have to explore Selenium and Cucumber, because after next 2 or 5 years, every company might say you have to know that technology. So it's not really hard. It's easy. You just download those third-party libraries. They are open source, and you can install and you can play at home. So you will have an edge over other developers in the market. You can easily switch jobs or change job or get a job as a fresher. And JUnit is really important. 99.9 most of the companies are using the JUnit for a long time, last maybe 8 or 10 years. So if you are developing your code has to be tested at unit level. Every method, every class in your code has to be tested using the JUnit. And this H2DB is a small DB, in-memory DB, which companies are using to store your data while you are testing. So on the fly, it will create the tables, it will store the data, it will do testing, and it will then dismantle everything. So if you are not aware of these things, better to learn. If you are working as a Java developer, these are required. But if you are looking for a career as an automation tester, then you can definitely look for this Selenium and Cucumber, because that is the technology established, well established right now. And if I go back to what I'm talking about, emerging technologies, like 4 or 6 years ago, these were the emerging technologies. Today, they are widely used technologies. Like 4 or 6 years ago, they were the emerging technologies, Selenium and Cucumber. Okay. The other things which you might want to explore are performance tools. Sometimes some companies say, I want to do the performance testing, but I don't have a separate team to do the performance testing. You as a Java developer, do some kind of a performance testing and come back and tell me how the code is performing. For example, I have created a web service, and that web service has to return the response in 5 milliseconds, whether it is written 5 milliseconds or 2 milliseconds or whatever the number it is. Established by the company, you are not going to establish. Otherwise, the company say if 1,000 users are using, how my web service is performing, whether it is returning the response in 30 milliseconds, 2 milliseconds, 1 millisecond, give me the number. Sometimes the companies, the management, they want to know you have written the code, how it is performing, whether it is returning for 1,000 users, how much time it is taking, for 10,000 users, how much time it is taking. So they are going to make some decisions based on that. And based on that, they are going to order the hardware. For example, you have only one server right now, you want to have 5 servers, 10 servers in the cluster. All that thing can be determined using the performance testing. So if you know any of these tools, that will be a plus as a Java developer. But the other way is you can learn these tools and become a performance tester. That is another career path. If you are new to IT world and you are trying to build your career around Java or non-Java, one of the position you might be looking for is performance tester. So if you know performance tools, the high-end tools, you will easily get the job and you can survive in the competitive market. Uh, Earlier I was talking about the JVM. So these things will come under JVM, the GC analysis, GC viewer, and optimize is profiler. So sometimes what happens is you have developed a code or someone already developed the code, you joined the company and you're running the code, it's in the production, and all of a sudden there is some problem and company is asking you, otherwise the company is asking the whole team to find out what's wrong. So you need some tools like optimize it, profiler. I don't think it's a free tool, but there are some profiling tools. You can go online and find out what is profiling and how the profiling can be done, and how to do the troubleshooting using profiler. So download those tools and play with them. You will be able to find out how those tools work and what kind of information they will give. It will give overwhelming information, so you should know how to use that information, because in your company the management is asking any of the developer, one of the developer in the company, to come and say, oh, this code, this particular line, this particular class has something bad, that's why it is not doing good in production. So the apart from performance tools, the performance improvement tools are really important. So this profilers and JVM analyzers are important for a seasonal developer like 5, 10, 15 years of experience. If you are in a company, the management is going to expect from senior developers what are the pitfalls they have in the code. And if the performance testing is not working, for example, you are expecting a response in 3 minutes, 3 milliseconds, and the response is coming in 5 milliseconds, how can we improve? Otherwise, if it is working for 10 users, but for 100 users it is breaking, you have to find out what's going wrong. For one day the application is working, next day the application is not working, you have to restart the server, then the application is working, there is something wrong. You have to find out. As a seasonal developer, senior developer in applications, in a company, the management is looking towards you, not the junior developers. Because in any company there will be like 2 or 3 senior developers, like 5 or 10 junior developers. Those 2, 3 senior developers will have more responsibility compared to junior developers. And if you are one of those senior developers, the expectation from the management is you have to find out the root causes, why the performance is not working, why it is not performing, why we are having this problem, and how to troubleshoot you should know, and what tools to use do, to do the troubleshooting you should know. And you should be able to advise the management what tools the company has to use. So the profilers and the analyzers are important for a seasonal senior developer. And even if you are junior, you can sit at home and you can do some kind of a troubleshooting, and you can do some kind of a research on these tools. Monitoring. We were talking about interaction between different microservices these days. As a Java developer, you developed so many microservices, and all those microservices are deployed. Now you wanted to see how those microservices are performing in real time in production. even if it is lower environment, but generally in production you wanted to monitor. So you have lot of servers, lot of technologies, lot of microservices, and all those things are unmanageable if you don't have a visibility into them. So if you wanted to see all of them together, you will use some tools. So one of the tool is Splunk, other tool is Kibana, there is a HP Servista, there are some other tools. So these tools do two things. Number one is it is keep looking if those applications, those servers are performing, memory is good, hard drive is good, all the logs are writing in proper place, everything is doing good, there are no issues. So it is doing the monitoring. The second thing is if you have anything you wanted to go and search, for example, today how many people visited my website, how my partners are using my web service. Sometimes some web services are paid web services. For every hit you have to pay, so you have to charge them. Like one of my client is using uh, credit monitoring, the credit check for based on SSN or something. So I will charge my client for every hit. So I want to know how many times that client is hitting. All those things, all those statistics, you will be able to see on a screen using Splunk or Kibana or any of these kind of systems. And again, you can, as a Java developer, know these tools, or you can become an expert and secure a job. You can be a HP Servista expert. There are jobs. You can be a Kibana administrator. There are jobs. You can be a Splunk administrator. There are jobs. So you can either choose a career around these technologies, or you can become a user of these technologies and you can make your resume shiny and attractive. So if you know any of these technologies, if you claim to know these technologies, there is a possibility you will be able to secure a job compared to others in a competitive market. Okay, can we stop here or we'll continue? You can put in a comment box or you can unmute. It's already
This is-
8 o'clock.
we still have half an hour time as committed, 2 hours of workshop. Fasibe, if you want to stop, then it's your choice, or else we can continue for next 30 minutes.
Okay, so everyone
We
wants
can
to listen.
take over a few questions, so that's what I was suggesting. If we can take a few questions and then end today's session, then we can continue tomorrow.
Okay, let's do that. So I will take some of the questions in next 15-20 minutes, then we will continue tomorrow because there are a lot of more slides available. So I'm not going to finish, I'm sure. Okay, come up with your questions. You can ask, otherwise you can type. Hello? SDLC, okay. Software development life cycle. So olden days, people used to have a concept called SDLC, software development life cycle. In many of the times in resume, you will see people write SDLC as one of the keyword in their resume. And sometimes some companies might be expecting that keyword, and that it's kind of outdated at this time. Uh, how it used to work. So the requirement comes and they do some kind of analysis on the requirement. So they will write a requirement document. The requirement document might be like 2 pages or 200 pages. And they will say, okay, there has to be a screen, there has to be a data flowing, you will do the validations, the data has to be in this format. So to do that analysis, they used to take weeks and months. So for example, today is January 18. From January 18 till May 1st, they are doing the analysis. So analysis is done. Once analysis is done, they will go back to the client and say, okay, this is my analysis. Can you review? Can you check what is this, how this analysis looks like? Is this requirements document is good or not? So multiple times, multiple iterations. They might go back to the client. They will review that requirements document. Finally, they'll say, okay, finally this is done. Then it goes to architect. The architect is going to create the design for that particular requirement. They will say, okay, I will have these many database tables, these many classes. I'm going to use Java as a technology. I'm going to use SQL Server as a backend. All that discussions will go from May 1st till May 15, for example. After May 15, then it goes to developers. Developers will say, okay, for these things, I need a IDE. I'm going to install the IDE. I'm going to configure the IDE. I'm going to connect to database. The database developers will come and they create the tables. So by the time your client see the outcome of your product, it takes months. So today I want a shoe. You are giving me a shoe after 3 months. I'm not going to be happy about that because I need it immediately, maybe next 1 week or 15 days. So this SDLC process is the old process, old system. It is a kind of a management technique, but these days, most of the companies, I'm not saying all of the companies, most of the companies have moved away from SDLC. They are coming into Scrum, Kanban, whatever I was talking about before. Everyone is using this. They have a lean kind of process. So you are not going to go through entire requirement in one go. What they say is, we are going to develop a small part of your car. For example, I'm building a car. Instead of building the whole car on day one, I'm going to build a steering wheel. I'm going to write the requirements for the steering wheel, and I'm going to give those requirements to my client, and client say, okay, this looks good, build it. You will build it, and you will show the steering wheel to the client, and client says, okay, looks good. Otherwise they'll say, I need a little bigger, little smaller. So immediately your client is able to see whatever the work you did, and the client can give you a feedback. You can get the immediate feedback if you are following this agile methodology instead of SDLC. SDLC and agile are two different things. If you are following the agile methodology, you will use this Kanban, Scrum and other things. And if you are not using agile, you will be in SDLC. So most of the companies in IT world are not using SDLC. And where did SDLC came from? Like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, there was no IT. In those days, still there used to be projects, right? So someone is building a bridge, someone is building a building, someone is building a dam. So they used to have this technology called SDLC, software development lifecycle. They used to have project lifecycle. So the project lifecycle starts with a requirements, then design, then implementation. So once the dam is done, you are not going to rebuild the dam again. You are not going to modify the dam again. So it is built once. That's it. The bridge built once. The runway of the airport is built once. That's it. But the software is not like that. Software, you build it today, you modify tomorrow, modify again, modify again. For years and years, you will be keep modifying, you will keep making adjustments. So there's a huge difference between the old-fashioned projects versus the software projects. That's why the SDLC was the initial concept which taken from the project management lifecycle of the old systems like civil engineering or mechanical engineering. But when it comes to software engineering, the concepts have changed. Whether it is agile or SDLC, being a Java developer, that's not really important for us. Of course, we go through those keywords in our meetings or in discussions, but being a Java developer, you are not going to face half an hour grilling on SDLC or agile. So that keep that in your mind. So from Java developers perspective, you need to know what is SDLC and what is agile and how they are different. That's it. Okay, let's go to next question. A lot of questions here. If you're planning to for abroad job, is it necessary to write a Prince exam for project management? I'm not sure. I did not do any project management, so I don't know what is Prince exam, but you can definitely ask some management experts. If you have my email, if you send me email, I'm going to find out that information and get back to you. Okay. Hibernate versus Spring. Which one is simple? Spring has so many different components and you cannot escape Spring. Hibernate is there for a long time. If the company is already using Hibernate, you cannot go out to the company and say replace Hibernate because I joined the company. No. If the company is already using Hibernate, you are going to continue using Hibernate, and you being a Java developer, you should know how to use the Hibernate, and it's not really hard for you to learn. But if you are facing a Java interview, definitely they might ask some tough questions related to Hibernate and how the transactions and other things are going to handle in the Hibernate. Spring JDBC is definitely has an edge right now compared to Hibernate, because if someone is trying to develop a new project and they are using different components of the Spring, why not Spring JDBC also, right? So that's what it is. Simple, I cannot say anything is simple as long as you are familiar, you use it, anything is simple. But if you are really trying to choose, companies might choose Spring JDBC over Hibernate, but many of the companies still using Hibernate with Springs. So that's how it is. Recording of today's session, CGC knows that. And Node.js compared to Java. Okay, really important question for today's session. Really important question. Node.js is a technology, definitely, and it is there for like 3 or 5 years, which I'm aware of. And a lot of companies are definitely using Node.js. But as in the beginning itself, I told, Java is a robust technology. Java can do many things not other technologies can do. Definitely, Node.js can build some of the backend tools which Java can build, and Node.js can be much easier, much faster compared to Java. But Java is going to provide so many different features which Node.js might not be providing. I'm not expert of Node.js. I'm not going to criticize Node.js, but definitely what I understand from the market is Java is still a hot technology. Java can provide so many features. Node.js might not be providing those things. So if there are small things which a company has to do and they are not looking for a huge expansion of that project, they might start that project using a Node.js as a backend. Definitely, yes. Agile, I have just now told. I think that should be sufficient. What is Agile is you join a company and that company is going to follow the Agile, and you being a Java developer, they are expecting something from you. What are they expecting, right? I'm going to give the perspective of a Java developer in the Agile environment. I am working in Agile environment for last 10 years, more than 10 years. So different companies I worked, and everywhere I have seen different taste of Agile. So what happens, what is expectation from the Java developer is you will have some tool. For example, I told Jira. For example, I told version 1. I told HP Agile Manager. These are the different tools I was using. Rally version 1, HP Agile Manager, Jira. So these are the different tools companies are using to manage their Agile process. If they don't have any of these tools, they will have a wall in your company like a whiteboard, and they will put some stickies on it. Otherwise, they will use the dry erase markers to write your tasks. So what you will do is there will be a meeting called planning meeting. In that planning meeting, they are going to decide in next 1 or 2 months or maybe 1 week, what are all the different tasks we are going to work on. Those tasks are called as stories. And in each story, there will be tasks. For example, you are developing a screen. So the task can be developing a front end, creating validations, and writing a JUnit. These are the different small tasks. And for each task, you are going to give number of hours. For example, creating a wireframe, I'm going to create in 4 hours. Writing a JUnit, I'm going to do it in 4 hours. And doing the validations, I need 8 hours whole day. So you are going to create tasks, and each task will have hours, and those all tasks will be assigned to a story, and you will take like 4 or 6 stories in your given sprint. The sprint is nothing but a time frame. It can be a week or 2 weeks or a month, depending upon company policy. So you will be working for that particular 1 month or 1 week on n number of stories. N number of stories will have x number of tasks, and x number of tasks will have y number of hours. So there are number of hours, number of tasks, number of stories. If you club all together, you will be able to see whether you will be able to accomplish what you are promising. You are promising to complete 4 different screens or 8 different transactions or 5 different backend codes. Are you able to accomplish them or not? You will be able to know on the day of planning. The first day of the sprint is planning day. On that day, you are going to do all this analysis, and on the last day of the sprint, the expectation is you are going to finish all of them. Some of the companies are flexible. They will say, okay, you are not able to finish because of some hiccups. That is fine. And some of the companies are really strict. They will say, on 18th of April, you said you are going to finish. Today is May 1st. Why you are not able to finish? You sit whole night or do whatever. I want it to be finished on May 1st. And when they write the user stories, every user story will have an acceptance criteria, and this terminology is really important for the developers and also for the business analysts. So they will write the acceptance criteria. You are creating a screen, the screen should have this kind of a width, this kind of a color. Otherwise you are creating a backend, you should have add a validation for the number, for the date, for the past date, for the date range, or whatever, right? So you have to meet that acceptance criteria, and all those things are part of agile process. So agile process is going to talk about stand-up meeting. Every day morning you will have a stand-up meeting. You are going to give your update, what you did yesterday, how was your day yesterday, what are you planning to do today, whether you are lagging behind, are you able to finish your work on May 1st or you need more time. You have to give that user story to someone else already finished it. All those things will be discussed on in your stand-up meeting every day morning or whatever the time the company decides. So number 1 is the planning meeting. Number 2 is every day morning stand-up. And on the last day of the sprint, you are going to give the demo. So you completed the task, whatever is assigned to you, whatever the story is assigned to you, you are going to show it to the business. You are going to demonstrate they are working, right? So that is all about agile. I can talk maybe more, but let's finish that. Node.js versus Java, I already told. How different are they and how similar? As I said, I'm not expert of Node.js, so I'm not going to talk a lot about it, but definitely it's a technology and some companies are using as an alternative to Java, but as I said, there are some, not too many, not all. Which is better, JDBC template or Hibernate template or a session factory? I might have to do some research. Send me email and I'm going to do some research and come back on this question, because on top of my head right now, I cannot answer this question. Session factory, what I know is going to create a session for you. So one session factory is dedicated to one database. If you are using multiple database, for example, you have an application, that application is connecting to SQL Server, that application is connecting to Oracle, this application is connecting to some other database. For each database, you will have a dedicated session factory, and you will get one session whenever you need from the session factory. That factory is going to create a session for you, and you use it, you close it. Okay. JPA. Yeah. I am not expert in these technologies. I used them, but I cannot give the differentiation between JDBC template, Hibernate template, and JPA. But send me email. I'll do some research and get back to you. What are the prerequisites to learn core Java and JavaScript? There is no prerequisite. Sometimes companies might give you a job only if you are MBA, MCA, or BTech, but I'm not going to tell you that is the prerequisite. That's not a prerequisite. Any person with a 10th fail or 10th pass can be a master of Java technology if they do a lot of practice at home or learn in some coaching center, but they might not get a job, because when the job requirement comes, in the job requirement somewhere they will mention people should have some degree. That degree may be BSc BCom, that degree may be BE BTech, that degree may be something. So getting a job is different, learning a technology is different. If you are planning to learn a technology like Amir Khan of Three Idiots, you can learn, because Amir Khan in that movie, what he is trying to do is he's trying to learn something, right? He don't want the degree, he don't want any recognition, he don't want a job. So learning a technology, there is no prerequisite. If you are smart enough, if you have a God gift of learning the technology, definitely you can learn. There is no prerequisite. But if you already know C or C++, it is easy for you to learn the Java technology. It's not a prerequisite. JavaScript also same thing. You can sit at home within 15 days, 1 month, you can become expert in JavaScript. You don't have to have any prerequisite, right? Core Java provides some links, sources from where I can learn the Java. You can go to online Google. There are a lot of links, lot of videos in YouTube, lot of material. So you can use any of those things, learn. If you have any questions, come back. Inshallah, I'm going to help and answer. Can you do certification only core Java as well as how enroll Java certification? Yes, it's a good question for the freshers. If you are not into IT field already, if you are looking to build a career around Java as a technology, so generally what happens is if you have like 2 or 5 years of experience, 10 years of experience, it is easy for you to get another job, switch job. Otherwise you are out of job, going to another job. But people who are freshers, it is really tough for them to get a job. So best thing what they can do is they can write a certification and prove themselves. So what they are trying to say is the company has received 100 resumes or 1000 resumes, but out of those 100 or 1000 resumes, there are 5 resumes or 10 resumes which have certification. So you have already proven yourself using a certification by paying the money to Oracle. You are certified Java developer. And while doing the certification, you will learn a lot of things, because to do the certification, you have to do a lot of hard work. It's not just easy. It's not a piece of cake to just go and get the certification. It's really hard. So if you do a lot of hard work and get a certification from Oracle, then it definitely makes big difference for a fresher. If you are experienced developer, you still want to get certified, that is okay. But many of the companies are not really looking for a certification from an experienced developer. Rather than they look for your expertise by writing the program or giving the interview, right? Java with JSF, is there any future? Uh, Companies who are already using the JSF, there is a future. So you can go and get the job in that company which is already using JSF. But as far as my understanding, my knowledge, none of the new companies are using the JSF in their newer projects which are going to start tomorrow, right? So if you are trying to learn JSF, it's okay. It's not really important. Just want to add one more keyword in your resume, that is good. But don't spend a lot of time to learn JSF. And if you already know JSF, you can definitely claim that. And if the company is using JSF, you can join that company and you can prove your expertise. But if you are trying to learn something new technology, UI technology, better to learn Angular, you better to learn React, better to learn Vue or something similar, JavaScript based framework. Okay. All right, you can give the feedback here. Effect on jobs due to coronavirus. Tech jobs are going to be remote. Right now in US, 99.9 developers are working from home. So in past also, people used to work from home for entire career, whole year. But those kind of people were like 5% or 2%. But right now, as of now, 99.9% of the developers are working from home. Going forward, that number might increase because many of the companies are saying, oh, if people are sitting at home working from home, they can save money on AC, they can save money on toilet paper, they can save money on electricity. They don't have to allocate a separate cube. So going forward, companies might choose to give the remote option, but still there are a lot of management experts who believe coming to company and working from the company is much more productive than working remotely. Okay, so that's what it is. Currently, I am working with Java and JSF technologies. Is there any future? Yeah, don't try to spend too much time on JSF going forward, because JSF is not going to be implemented in newer projects going forward. Slides I'm going to share tomorrow. Let me complete the whole thing. There are a lot of more slides remaining. Okay. Job opportunities in Mean and Merck. Yeah, this is the new keyword these days they have introduced it. Without much of a Java, PHP or Python, some technology you have to learn. So you might be learning PHP, you might be learning Python, you might be learning Java, you might be learning Node.js, you might be learning some technology, but you have to learn something. And I always tell the job seekers, in past I told many times, if you are learning something simple, for example, Python you can learn in 1 week, for example, and you can become a Python expert. And if you can learn Python in 1 week, why not others? So there will be hundreds and thousands of people who learn Python in 1 week and become a competitor for you. But if you learn some technology which takes 6 months for you to learn, not everyone is willing to sit at home, learn for 6 months and become a competitor for you. There will be very few people in the market. So if you are looking for something simple, you can become an expert in that simple technology, but there will be too much competition in the market. When you are looking for a job, a lot of people are applying for the job. When you go for an interview, the hall will be full. If you learn something which takes for you to 6 months or 1 year, the hall will be empty. There will be 4 or 5 people like you who are expert in the technology, which technology you have to spend like 6 months to learn, right? Simple example, low hanging fruit, everyone will try to grab the fruit which is on top of the tree. Very few people will try to attempt that fruit. There will be less competition. So you decide yourself. What is the difference between SOAP and REST? Yeah, good question. You can easily find out online. SOAP is a old technology for web services. If I go back into history, people used to call as Corba. So Corba was a technology they used to call, you develop your application in any language and other languages applications can interact with your application. For example, you have developed an application in .NET, you have developed an application in Java. These two applications have to interact with each other. Corba was the solution. Then that Corba didn't work. Then they came up with another technology called SOAP. So in SOAP, they used to have a WSDL, WSDL file. So that WebSphere definition language file, that WSDL file will have an interface. In that interface, they will say what your request looks like, what your response looks like, how you are going to interact with each other. And that WSDL will be used to develop the code on .NET side. That WSDL will be used to develop the code on Java side. And WSDL is like a contract between two parties. So for example, one person is selling the home, other person is buying the home, one person is renting the home, other person is becoming a tenant. There will be contract between them. So here, one person is providing the service, other person is consuming the service. One company is providing the service, other company is consuming the service. The contract between those two companies is WSDL. So inside the WSDL, you are going to define different operations to be performed, how the request looks like, how the response looks like. All that information will be written in the WSDL, and that WSDL will be shared with both the developers. The developers on the .NET side will generate the code from that WSDL. The developers on the Java side will generate the code using the WSDL, and they will fulfill their code accomplishments, whatever it is. Then they will interact with each other using the SOAP UI, SOAP web service. The SOAP web service can work over any protocol, including HTTP protocol. The REST web service can work only on HTTP protocol, and it is easy to use. The simplest thing is you develop the code using Java, and you will expose a URL, HTTP URL, and that URL may be a get or post or put or something, and you will have some request parameters, and you are expecting some response. And that response and request you don't have to write in a XML like a WSDL. You can change. So today on 18th of April, we have decided my request will have 3 parameters. Tomorrow you will realize, oh, 3 is not going to work. I need 4. So there is no WSDL to edit. You don't have to generate the code. You just say, okay, I need 1 more parameter. You will tell your partner, your other company or different team in your company, I need 1 more parameter. That's it. They are going to add 1 more parameter and give it to you. So sharing between different projects, sharing between different companies, interacting, integrating, all that become easy using the REST. So REST is definitely having a good advantage. One other big difference between SOAP and REST is if you are developing a SOAP web service and you are giving it to some front end, for example, Angular front end developed for a mobile phone, for what we call Android phone, right? So consuming from the SOAP is comparatively harder, but consuming that request coming from REST web service is easy. That's why companies are using REST web service going forward. But there are companies which have already used SOAP before, so they might not go and invest money to modify their code from SOAP to REST. Hope I gave enough information. The best practice for an enterprise application for having API development like Spring REST or something else. Best practice generally not written on a stone. It's not carved in a stone. So most of the companies these days who are developing their custom solutions, they are definitely using a REST web service. It might be using Spring, it might be using some other technology, it might be using .NET, right? But they are developing their APIs as a REST web service. And that is the best practice as of now. Going forward, it might change. In past, like 5-8 years ago, people used to develop the web services using SOAP. If you go to 15-20 years, there used to be a concept of client server applications, right? So client server applications, SOAP applications, REST applications, tomorrow something else might come which might replace this REST web services. But as of now, the interaction between companies, interaction between different teams within the company, all that is happening using the REST web services. That REST web service might be using Spring, it might be using .NET, it might be using something else. Okay, all questions answered today. Overview of Log4j. Log4j is a logging technology. So in any company, in any project, you want to know how the project is doing, and sometimes some issue comes, some problem happens, and you wanted to know what went wrong. So to get that information, they write the log. Log is nothing but kind of a paper trail. You go to bank, you deposited the money, you transferred the money, you will get the bank statement end of the month. The bank statement says on 4th July you went to restaurant, on 5th July you transferred money to your friend, on 8th July someone transferred money to you. It's a paper trail, right? So list of transactions will be written in the log. Whatever is happening in your application server, all the things will be written in the log. All the things in the sense whatever you as a programmer want to write. So you being a programmer, the best practice is crucial information you have to write. For example, you are integrating your application with 4 or 5 different companies. For all those companies, you wanted to know when the request came, request had what information. For example, first name, last name, date of birth, some information. So you want to save that information. Tomorrow your client says, oh, I sent a request morning 7 o'clock. You wanted to know, first thing is it is written in the log. You can go to the log and see. If you are using Splunk or Kibana, you can search in the Kibana morning 7 o'clock how many requests came from, they came from who. So you can even write into Splunk logs the IP address of your client. So all those things can be done using any logging technology, and Log4j is the most popular logging technology used in Java development. And to configure Log4j, you might use XML, you might use property file. In those places, you are going to configure how your log files have to be written, what size the file has to be. They have to create a file every day or for every 10 MB or something like that. And there you can specify all the errors have to be logged, only debug statements have to be logged, all that information you are going to mention, and what kind of format you are going to write, date, time, only date, all that thing you can configure in your Log4j properties file or XML file configuration. Okay, few minutes. AngularJS. See, the AngularJS is a old technology. Before 1.1 or something, they used to call AngularJS. These days they are calling as Angular. And AngularJS is kind of outdated. If the company is already having AngularJS, they might be still using AngularJS. But the new projects, whatever are being developed, no one is using AngularJS going forward. They might be using some other UI technology like Vue.js or React.js. They might be using Angular, the new Angular. And new Angular behind the scenes uses the TypeScript as a language, scripting language. And definitely the latest version of Angular you have to learn if you're learning new. But if you already know, continue exploring the new features coming in Angular. Okay. Job purpose. Yeah, job. The thing is, Angular is a very good technology. You can become expert of Angular. You don't have to learn Java at all. You can be a UI expert. You will be able to earn job using Angular itself. But if you know Java and you know also Angular, you become a full stack developer, and definitely there are jobs. What is the best way to learn complete Java? Best way to learn is sit at home, practice. You can go outside and you can get the coaching face to face. You can go Udemy, you can go YouTube, you can do online research. Practice is the key to become an expert. Without practice, you are not going to be expert. You can read 100 things, you can remember 100 things, but when you go in interview, they are going to ask few things which only a seasoned, experienced developer can answer. So remember that. Without Spring or Spring Boot, we can develop a Java application. Yes, you can develop a lot of applications without Spring, but going forward in companies, everyone is using Spring, so better to learn that. All right, so let's conclude. We took a lot of time, more than 2 hours already. We will continue tomorrow, same time, with the remaining slides. I have many more slides going forward. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks a lot, Pasi.
Right.
I request all the people who are in the call, they can just text with your details on WhatsApp, so that I'll send you the update for tomorrow program as well. The same thing we are using for tomorrow program also at the same time, 4 p.m. IST. Someone in if someone is out of India, then they need to find out the time as per their convenient. Yes, thank you so much. We have already mentioned our number. If someone is still not part of it, please send a message. Yes, you can send a message on 903-243-2827 to get added. Thank you.
Also
right.
share your feedbacks on the Career Guidance Council at gmail.com. We look forward to your feedback so that we can improve upon further sessions. Thank you. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Perfect.
Sure.
Thank you
Sure.
so much.
Thanks,
Thank you for
Pasi and team for your valuable time and effort.
Right. Assalamu alaikum.